Hi, kia ora everybody. Welcome to another episode of Bastards of Knowledge. Tanya, how are you this morning? 6 a.m. today. Different timing.
Yeah, very good. Only had a couple hours sleep, but we'll push through.
Yeah, awesome, cool. And what have you learned since we last did our last podcast?
I think something I've learned, which is probably a bit different, is yesterday I went and helped a primary school with river rugby for the day, and I just realised how chaotic little kids can be. I think coming to uni, we don't really have many opportunities to see little kids, so to go into that setting of a primary school again and seeing how much energy they have for the whole day and yeah, just the excitement they have, it was just overwhelming to say the least. But it was also interesting to see how many observations they already have at such a young age. And so I think that's one of the things I'm learning if I do go into a primary school setting is understanding that, those comments that you just put out there that you don't think will mean much, those little kids can actually latch onto and hold for quite a while. So just understanding the impact of what you say as well.
Yeah, and that's pretty powerful. And I guess that's also leads on to my learning, which is very similar to yours, that we forget how to play. As we get older and older, we forget how to play and we just live in this world of rules and that, hey, it's okay just to have a good time, and just enjoy yourselves. But also, what we say, words are very powerful. I think it also goes to adults. When I started my role, I remember my mentor said to me that be careful, watch what you say, because in a speech of an hour or whatever, there could just be one word that you say that has an impact, either positive or negative, to your audience. And I guess sometimes I'm aware of what I say. Sometimes I'm like, whatever, who cares? And then it comes back and it bites me or not. So yeah, I guess play and awareness is pretty important, which is quite hard to do when you live in a world with rules and structure, and you have to do things the way you do. But hey, we're being unstructured today. We are waking up at 6 a.m. in the morning because we want to have a pretty awesome guest today. As always, we like to bring in people that we think are fantastic. I think everyone's fantastic. But in this podcast, we try and bring people that have done an exciting or something different as opposed to what we normally do. So today, all the way from the Northern Hemisphere, we are welcoming Lachlan onto our podcast. Welcome to our podcasts.
Hello, everyone. How's it going?
And we're going to call you Lachie, right? No, Lachlan. We'll be.
Yeah, Lachlan's a bit formal.
Exactly,
it's only my mum that calls me Lachlan when she's grumpy at me. So,
well, I never say, Mum, we're not grumpy at you. So, welcome to the podcast, Lachie. Lachie, do you want to tell our listeners where you're from and what you're doing at the moment?
Well, originally I'm from Kaikoura, so I grew up there at the bottom of the mountains next to the sea, which was, I guess, the beauty of growing up in a place like that. Then moved a bit of a downgrade, I must say, to Temuka. Nothing against Temuka, it's just a lot less fun than Kaikoura. And then went through high school and everything there, and then shipped myself down to Dunedin for a nice time of partying, but lots of studying as well. And then managed to get a scholarship to come over to the University of Oxford. So that's where I'm currently sitting at the moment, Oxford, UK.
Brilliant. So what a story from Kaikoura to Oxford, and in between those ups and downs with Temuka and Dunedin, I guess, in between there. Let's go back right to where it all started, Kaikoura. Thinking about living in Kaikoura, did you ever imagine yourself being where you are today? As you're growing up, some of us have visions. Oh, I want to be a sports star or a TV actor or whatever. When you were in Kaikoura and you were under the mountain and the sea, did you ever think you'd be here today?
No, I didn't think I'd end up anywhere like this. I knew from a young age, apparently as soon as I could speak, I told people I wanted to be a paleontologist, which is a pretty impressive word for a kid. And I'm not that far off, which I think is, I might be some sort of psychic or mystic, with a childhood skill like that. But it was basically like my grandmother. I grew up, my parents were both working. So I grew up with my grandmother, and she'd take me down to the beach with comb the shores, looking for dead critters and things like that had washed up. Collecting things in the rock pools, and then hunting for fossils and stuff like that. So I learned an appreciation for the natural world and the finality of it from a young age, looking at extinction and the fossils record and things like that. So I guess that's where the love of this kind of work came from, and then just blossomed from there. But as far as getting a job from it, I never envisioned that.
And that's crazy how that happened. It reminds us of our last guest as well. Her passion was also to get insects, and she ended up doing that, even though she didn't think she'd do that in her as she grew up. And for listeners out there who are not from New Zealand, Kaikoura is on the east coast of New Zealand. It's a tiny village. village. We call it a village. I'll call it a village, which is famous in New Zealand for whale watching, but also with its amazing mountains and just mountain to see amazing vistas. So you went from this beautiful setting of fosking around the shore to, like you mentioned before, to Temuka. What is that like for you as a young person?
I guess kind of restricting in terms of you've got your friends at school and stuff, and that was all good. But as far as high schooling went, there's only one school in Temuka. So my parents shipped me off to Timaru, which meant I had to catch an hour-long bus every day. And then you were like an hour away from your peers and your friends and things like that. So it was kind of isolating in that respect. And there's not a lot to do in Temuka. To try and make my own fun, I got a metal detector.
Yeah.
You know, those people that walk up and down the beach finding treasure and things. I guess that kind of links back into my interests as well. But just trying to make my own fun, going down to the river, biking around.
Yeah.
My siblings are my best friends kind of thing as well.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And I guess like you said before, you know, there's this passion for searching for things must have just, you know, you're living in a small village, Kaikoura. You move to Temuka, there's not much to do there. So like you said before, you have to just make your own fun. And I guess being an inquisitive mind, that was probably natural for you to go, okay, cool, this is what I'm going to do and get amongst it. And what are some of your childhood memories growing up and living in Timaru, schooling in Timaru and living in Temuka, I guess? Anything that stands out for you in terms of, hey, this is really cool for me in my future world, I guess?
As far as, I guess it was just mainly like the weekends away with my dad and my brother, because my parents were really like involved, just taking us away and just doing things, you know, like we were never sitting on our hands, which is kind of almost ADHD kind of thing as a family, you know. You're always out there trying to do something. We'd go fishing one weekend and we'd go skiing the next, you know, just random outdoorsy things that really gave me an appreciation for nature, but also I guess just the beauty of New Zealand and being able to do all these things, because you come to a place like Oxford, bang smack in the center of the UK, where there's no mountains, no ocean, no rivers. Well, there's the Thames, but it's the grossest looking river ever. So you really just feel fortunate for the opportunity to go and do all these different activities.
Yeah, it's crazy because you don't realize what you don't have until you move out away, right?
Yeah.
And I guess that's the great contrast there from New Zealand, where everything is just green and beautiful, and you know, green spaces basically around us everywhere we go, to a place where, like I said before, the river is not really a river you'd like to go and dip in, unless you want to come up with who knows what.
I guess but that also links back to Temuka, because like lots of agriculture, lots of dairy. So like as a child, I grew up being able to swim in the rivers. And then when I reached the end of high school, you couldn't even take your dog to the rivers without risk of it dying. So I guess you could see that degradation happening in real time. Just here, I just get to see the end product of it because people have been living here for so much longer, I think.
And I guess for you, I guess maybe watching that, there might be a concern for you, because here in New Zealand, we're pretty oblivious to that end product, because we're still in, I guess, stage 3 of stage 5. How does that make you feel? You know, because we have lots of proponents out there going, hey guys, you know, they can't read planes, be careful. But we're like, hey, no, agriculture is the way to go. How does it make you feel or think? Yes.
Heated at Christmas, I can tell you that, because a lot of my family are dairy farmers.
Yeah.
So there's always, I'm quite a conservation-minded person. I did lots of work with Orokonui in Dunedin, which is an eco sanctuary that has lots of native birds and things, and just did all these different kind of eco-based volunteering things just to try and give back to the environment.
Yeah.
But yeah, coming from that mindset and going to the dinner table with my family who are just trying to make as much money as they can by just overusing the land, pumping it full of fertilizer, and not really caring about the process, despite saying they care about the process. It can be frustrating. I'm not saying there's not ethical dairy farming, but yeah,
it's a tough one, right? Because you know you have the world we live in at the moment versus how we're trying to think about the future, and it's hard to sell or to talk about the future when you can't actually see tangibly for people that this is their livelihood. No, and I think that's across the board for a lot of things, from climate change to deforestation to, you know, agriculture. The whole, I've got to try to keep being alive, and let's not worry about tomorrow. It's a very hard thing.
It's very easy to just keep in the here and now and not think about the repercussions of what you're doing, and just being like, this is a good time, I'm going to keep having good times. Oh crap, I'm at the end of the road.
Exactly, yeah. And I guess, Tana, you might be seeing this in the Taranaki as well, because that's another place where there's some interesting things happening with oil and gas and some farming as well?
Yeah, definitely. We have seen conflicts, especially towards the end of my high school days, was when the conversation started coming up, especially around like 2050, trying to get to net emissions and how we can be more sustainable. And it is quite difficult, especially as you move around the Maunga. So, the further out you go, the more farming you see, and the more challenging it becomes, because it is a hard line. For some people, it is their livelihood. And so it's hard to be able to change that in a day. We can't just say, it's easy to say, let's be more ethical. It's a bit harder to be like, okay, here are the steps you actually need to be able to be ethical. So that's just something that, over time, hopefully we can approach in an easier way.
Yeah, and I guess you're both right there, because, it's great to have this idealistic end and where we're at the moment, but it's the middle part that's missing, and I guess it's harder as the world becomes more expensive, that middle bit there becomes harder to go, hey, how do I actually do it? That keeps everyone happy. This could be a great conversation. We can go on forever and ever and be conflicted, but we're not here to talk about that. We talk about your journey here. So you were in Timaru High School. I believe you went to Roncalli College, which I'm very proud of you, I think, from what I've just done a bit of research there. You're the poster boy at the moment. You then had a choice now, again, because you're living in the South Island and you're living in a place where there's no real university. You had a choice to go to any university in New Zealand. What made you decide to go down south to Dunedin, I guess? Because your closest university would be the University of Canterbury.
Yeah, I think the same thing that most of my peers were driven by and motivated by, and that was the fact that it was known for a place to work hard, but also party hard too. That was kind of the reason I went down there, because I wanted a good time. My dad went there. He did a bachelor's in psychology, which I think as children was kind of a bad thing, because he knew what we were thinking and knew like what our behavior meant, and he could kind of psychoanalyze us. But yeah, so the fact that he had that, I guess, that institutional knowledge from my family of like he'd been there. So yeah, I had to follow in his footsteps. I didn't have to. I wanted to follow in his footsteps.
Yeah, and what is that like where you're going from two very small places to a place that's a lot bigger with a lot more young people? Like I said, they play hard, they work hard. What is that like for you? Can you remember your first day stepping into that environment?
I like one word: diversity. Like, because you live in a small rural community like Timaru, and everything's very like closed-minded. Everyone has certain ideas, and people dress and behave a certain way. And then you get out of that, and you have these little bubbles, which are the university towns and cities. And I guess just seeing like a whole range of new people with new ideas, people who express themselves in different ways. That was the first thing that strikes me, and like it really changed my mindset from like what it was when I'd left high school.
I think that's really that's a good observation, because I felt the same thing as well. I grew up in Zimbabwe, and I grew up in a time when things were very well. Zimbabwe is an interesting country, and you only know what you know, right? So I believe this was my norm. This is the way things were, and I went to university in South Africa, and my mind just went, "Whoa, I've got to relearn everything, because all the stuff that I've learned, a lot of stuff learned is actually not true, or it can be expanded on." And I guess, Tana, you've had the same experience living the beautiful Taranaki, going to a university where, like you said, there's just a whole lot of different people.
Yeah, for sure. There's just so many different people. And again, when you've got that school environment that you're in 6 hours a day, to then come down here where it's all new people with all different ideas, it can be challenging at times, but it's also good at times to keep your mind open, because it's so easy to kind of narrow off and focus on these are the ideas we have and we're going to kind of stick to them. So it was actually quite refreshing as much as it was challenging at the same time.
Yeah, and we'll segue to the same thing as well, Lachie. So Dunedin, diverse, here we go, bring it on. And then a couple of years later, in Oxford. What is the feeling there? Was the same thing? Was it what does that change like for you?
It's more just like the depth of knowledge here, and like the depth of institution. Like my college that I'm currently living in was established in 1264. Like that's before like Polynesians arrived in New Zealand. Like before anybody had discovered our continent, we have people that are living in the building I am now, studying towards, I think back then it was theology and I can't remember the other, but there was like 2 core subjects that you could take. And now there's obviously a huge diversity. But yeah, just the fact that so many great minds, like you've got At my college, Tolkien and T.S. Eliot went through. I was in a dining hall the other night, and there's a letter from Albert Einstein to the as an alumni of that college. It's just a very crazy place with lots of deep history.
Yeah. So you've gone from diversity in Dunedin to depth and diversity, I guess, in Oxford, which is, again, it's always learning. I think this is where universities, I mean, I'm speaking out of anecdotal evidence, I think universities across the world are amazing in that, the fact that they bring diverse minds, but also, education has been around for a very, very long time. And we forget that, it's not just something that's a modern thing. We've been learning stuff from the day we were born, and it's just been institutionalized, differently. So Dunedin, what did you end up going to study there? What is your jam, I guess? Apart from the social life.
Yeah. So I went down there with this vision. Well, it wasn't my vision, it was the vision of my guidance counselor. If I can give any advice to anybody listening to this, is do not listen to your guidance counselor, listen to yourself. Like, I went to university and studied geology because my guidance counselor told me, you won't make any money being a zoologist. The only way to make money is to go to Australia and work in the mines. You get a 6-figure salary and that'll be your life. I was like, great, let's do that. Yeah. So I went down there, started studying geology, and I was like, no, you know what? I'm going to take a biology paper just to throw it in there because I had some spares. And it was the coolest paper I'd ever done. It was like an intro biology paper looking at all the different animals, like some physiology stuff, some behavior, and I was set. So then I quickly switched it around. I kept the geology because I'd already done so much, but then combined it for a double geology, zoology, and then just carried on with the zoology side of things into masters.
Isn't it crazy how your careers advisor, guidance counselor sometimes just decide for you, and at the age of 16 or 17, you're so vulnerable that you believe everything they say, or you think, okay, cool, they know what they're saying. Tanya, what is your experience like as well? I mean, yours is a whole different world. It's Boston College.
Yeah, similar kind of vibe. I know probably more earlier, probably year 9 and 10, my PE teacher was like, you should do physio, and I was like, yep, that sounds great. But again, I think I was fortunate that come year 12 and 13, I had an opportunity to actually look at what physio's got to do. So I was able to have that insight prior to going down, and that kind of changed my whole worldview of what physio actually done. And I guess, I don't know if I can't remember if we've mentioned this before, but that changed my whole mindset, especially when I thought sport physio would be like the biggest thing for me because I am quite into my sports. But actually, when I looked at it, I was like, nah, this isn't actually as interesting as I thought it would be. And it more opened my eyes to rehab and how beneficial that can be, although challenging at times. So yeah, it was really good to be able to change my mindset, but also, I was set on physio for so long, and it just makes me realize if I was back then and I could relook at things, would I relook at different things?
Yeah, totally. And I guess that's where the fear comes. You've been told, or you've had this idea in your mind from external sources saying this is what you should do, or you're good at this, you're good at this. I meet a lot of young people that say to me, I want to be a doctor or a lawyer because my parents say you're good at sciences or you're good at arguing. I was like, cool, but do you actually want to do it? And then they come to university and they go, whoa, perception versus reality are two different worlds. And like you said, also, Lachlan, some people are driven by money, and and that's cool. They can, everyone has a different passion, but sometimes when I go to schools, I say, hey, your money is fantastic, we all love money. But when you go to university, I don't think that's a motivator when you're studying. When you're in your class, you're not thinking about the big money you're going to be making. You're thinking about, am I enjoying what I'm doing today?
And the money you're dropping, getting the degree at the end.
Exactly. Yeah.
But also I just want to flip this as well. Like, it's not only the good things people say to you, like Tane said at the start, it's the bad things people say to you as well. Yeah. And like these little nuggets that stick with you, like I remember back in high school, there was this teacher who told me I should drop out and take up a trade because I was good for nothing. If I'd listened to him, I would not be here right now. I'm almost tempted to, like, when I get my degree, to just sign a copy and mail it to him, just to be like, here you go. Yeah. This is what you told that kid. So if people are just like yelling hate at you too, they're not always going to give you support. Just be true to yourself. Yeah.
It's awesome because, you're echoing what's come through a lot of our podcasts. Sonia said the same thing a few weeks ago in her podcast where one of her lecturers said to her, no, you can't do this paper here. You're not going to do it. And she was like, I'll show you. And she said it. Like I said, it's not just the good things, it's the bad things. The same thing with health sciences. People say, oh, health at first is too hard, you're not going to make it. But hey, who are we or others to decide what your fate is? Like you said before, like it's up to you at the end of the day. And you got to believe in yourself or not believe in yourself. It's up to you, really.
Yeah.
That's your choice.
And take those bad words and use them to just like drive you even harder. That was playing in the back of my head so many times when I was going through uni and felt like just too much stress and pressure and things. I just like, no, think of what bleep the teacher's name out said about you that time. Yeah. So
which really ties back to what we said right at the start, that your words are very powerful. You've got to, whatever you say to your audience is very powerful, both positively and negatively. So you're in Dunedin, you're doing your double major, zoology, geology. You're thinking you're going to go there for the 3-year program. When did you realize that actually this is going to be a bit of a longer journey, or in a good way?
I just loved it. I just loved studying. I loved learning.
Yeah.
If I always say to myself, if I ever won lotto, not that I buy tickets, so I'm never going to win lotto, but if I magically won lotto, I would just keep studying, because knowledge is power. You've always got it. No one can take it away from you. And it just like makes you look at the world in such a different way. Like even the geology degree, I'm driving through a countryside now and I look at the landforms and I'm like, I know how that formed. Or, you go over a river and you're like, oh, I wonder what the grain size is to figure out how much flow is coming down the river. It's just all these different ways of like looking at the world that an education gives you. And if it's a more humanities focused thing, you can look at those sides of the world in a different way.
And I like that you say that, because people think you go to university to get a job, but I think that's incorrect. I think you go to university to learn. You learn about the world, and like you said, you can use that knowledge wherever, while you're driving down the road, or a pub quiz. It's just random stuff that you just go and pick up wherever you go. But also, apart from the learning, Lachie, let's talk about the other experiences you've had while you were doing undergrad. One of the cool things you can involve in that was that I guess grew you as a young person out of the classroom.
I guess the first one, like when I finished first year, I got a shoulder tap from Nick Bates at Cumbie College, and he was like, "Do you want to come be an RA?" And I was like, "Sure." So second year RA, I got put up here at high school, so most of my residents were older than I was, which was kind of weird to be in a position of power when they are older than you. But that was fun, getting to meet so many cool people and just be like more of like a peer role model rather than, I guess, a disciplinary force or something like that. So that was lots of fun. I got involved with Hands on Otago for a few years now. So that was a high school program where people come from, I don't know if you've talked about it before on the podcast.
Tane has spoken about it. That's his experience.
So you'll all be experts on it. So did Hands on Otago with Tane. Like I said, volunteering at Orokonui, lots of teaching. I did, I think about like 12 or so university papers just scattered around the place, because I love teaching. That's kind of what I want to get into when I finally get out of a university setting. Well, I'll probably stay in a university setting, but
in a different way.
Just lots of random, there's nothing that really ties it all together. I just see something cool and I'm like, I'm going to go for that. And that's what I reckon. Just if you've got things you want to do, just do it. Don't think about the grander picture. I didn't think I want to do this because I'm going to get here. A lot of people, I met these people, you probably know, I went for the Rhodes Scholarship because that's one of the ways to get over to Oxford. I didn't get it, but you meet these people who are coached their whole life to do these certain things, so then they can get a glowing resume and then hopefully have the best shot at getting a Rhodes Scholarship and getting their way to Oxford University. It's not about that. It's about doing what you want to do.
Yeah, totally. And I guess you resonate really well with Tane as well, because Tane, you get involved with we've talked about many times that it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be linked. You can just do stuff just because it's fun. I just like doing it, so I'm just gonna do it. And I'm sure there's no regrets for doing all the things that you've done. I hope not.
I guess the only regret is I did Are You Okay for like 5 years, and when people throw up on you at a gig, like it's a thing where you help people who have a little bit too much fun at concerts. So when people are throwing up on you at that, that's less than ideal.
And I guess it's also quite humbling because it just brings some mortality. We're all the same, right? This is I could one day I could be teaching a person, the next day I'm holding the hair up and they're vomiting over us. And
the amount of times that happened, and it's also the apology. Everyone's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and I'm like, "We've all been there. Like we've all been vulnerable. We're all in a situation where we don't want to be in. It's just helping people out of it."
That's right, exactly. Yeah, and that's the crazy irony. Where humans are quick to judge other people in these states here, but they realize actually, wait a minute, I was in that state at some point, or I could have been in that state at some point, or that person is someone's child, or that's another human being that's just going through whatever it is. But it's not. But we judge people based on their actions for that moment there, as opposed to who they are as human beings, which is tough. And I guess, Tana, you see that in the colleges being a subwarden at the moment.
Sure do. It's very interesting. And it almost gives you deja vu at times when you see things and they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. And it's like, no, you shouldn't be. Like, you should be, but also like, we've been there, other people have been there. You're not the only person in this college that has actually done that. It's just, sometimes it's the same as always, people always put up that good side of themselves, no one's going to portray that bad side that they don't want people to see. But sometimes it's just about normalizing it and being like, hey, it's actually all good. I done this in first year, or, I've seen similar situations, so don't stress about it. Just, think about what you do from here. That's the important part.
Exactly. We're just all humans at the end of the day. We're all just animals. We're just animals, right? Essentially. And talking about animals, let's come back to your study. So
what a segue.
Yeah. So zoology and geology. Tell us about your research into your master's program. What fired you up with the way you want to go with your master's?
So originally I did a more paleontology-based master's. I was going to be working on this smashed up fossil that was collected in central Otago of this 23 million year old dolphin. And then I just really wasn't jazzed by it. But it had been like 2 months since I signed up for this. And I was like, I don't want to do this. And I went to my supervisor and I was like, I really don't want to do this, which was, I feel like kind of brave because you feel like you've kind of signed your life away and you're like set down this path. But that's the other thing, everything can change. So then he was like, what might you want to do? And I was like, well, there's this ancient DNA stuff, like getting DNA from things that have been dead for thousands of years. He's like, well, I know the guy. He sent me to the guy. And then we did a collaboration between my old supervisor and the new one, and then did a project on extinct lizards in New Zealand. So I went from dolphin boy to lizard man, and the rest is history.
Yeah, and what is interesting being in that whole process there as you were doing your research? What is your jam, I guess?
Long hours, dressed like cooking meth on Breaking Bad kind of thing. Sweating under this clean suit, trying to get DNA out of these old bones. Yeah, that's my jam in the lab.
Do you want to explain to our listeners and to us, I guess, what that process involves? We're just assuming that you just put it out quite easily, but actually that's not the way it rolls.
It's there's a few chemical processes. So it depends on the bone. Sometimes you got big bones, which like you think of them more, like you can get a lot of material out of that. So normally people just drill a hole in it and get the powder, and then they digest that powder down, get the DNA out of that, and then stick these little other pieces of DNA onto the end so you can keep track of them through all these downstream things. You sequence the DNA and then you do all these fancy computer things, and then you end up with hopefully genome data or whatever you're looking at, and then you can compare populations, individuals. I guess a lot of people are becoming more familiar with that because of COVID and PCR and things like that, and tracking variants and stuff. I basically do that, but for dead things that aren't going to kill millions of people.
Unless it's a T-Rex, right? Oh, T-Rex, here we come.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I'm about to dispel the biggest myth in ancient DNA. Dinosaur DNA can't happen. Apologies, everybody.
Oh, there we go. You heard it here first, guys. It's not going to happen. No Jurassic Park. Nothing. Not going to happen.
Yeah. Sorry to break all your dreams. I mean, you could genetically engineer a chicken, but as far as getting viable DNA from a T-Rex bone, it's a rock. There's no DNA left.
Love over. That's it. There goes our dreams. There goes my theme park idea. Crazy. And which is really, really cool. So as you're doing your masters, we've touched on this before, but let's talk about what inspired you to now start applying for the Rhodes Scholarship. And do you want to explain what the Rhodes Scholarship is to our listeners out there who don't know what that is? Because it is a pretty prestigious thing.
It was originally established to get, I guess, Commonwealth countries from across the world, get the best, brightest minds and bring them to Oxford. It had some very colonialist roots. If you do any Googling into Rhodes, or Cecil Rhodes, who was the founder, there will be a lot of negative stuff, which granted, they say he was a man of his time. That's an absolutely bull excuse, anyway, we won't get onto that. But it's quite interesting because there's statues of him around here and there's lots of conflict about a movement called Rhodes Must Fall, which came out of the Black Lives Matter movement, and people want his statue removed from the main street. Anyway, we won't get into that one. But Rhodes Scholarship basically offers New Zealanders, 3 New Zealanders every year, the opportunity to go and study at Oxford University, fully funded. Yeah,
which is pretty epic. The whole Rhodes thing really hits home with me because I like if I'm from Zimbabwe, it was called Rhodesia. Cecil John Rhodes came there, named, he did some interesting things there. And as you speak about the statues, during my time in Zimbabwe, those statues are all pulled down and put away and locked away, and it's an interesting part of history. And I guess another conversation that can go on forever and ever about the good, the bad, the good, the ugly, and we'll just try to stay away from that, and because yeah, it could be interesting.
But like you said, it is history, right? So like, yes. I think these things, just put them in a museum, because then you can still not push that stuff to the side, but it offers a space where you want to learn about. Yeah. I guess the worst things that ever happen, in a museum is the best context for that kind of thing, but not sitting in public as a revered status symbol. You don't want to be glorifying any of that.
That's right. History. I agree with you. I think it's bad for us for humans in general to say this history didn't happen. And as part of history, it's happened. Let's put it where we can acknowledge it and go, right, cool. And also good things as well. Good things and bad things. It's part of history. Acknowledge, learn, and move on to make sure we don't repeat these mistakes or repeat some of the things that are good. Some things.
Yeah.
Are they good things? I don't know. There must be good things out there.
Probably. Well, it's even like science, right? You publish your science and you put it in like a place so then people know you've done it and they don't waste their time doing it again. Totally, there's a good thing, right?
Exactly. It's like vaccines, right? Vaccine production. Oh, yeah. Controversial right there. All the controversy today.
I swear I'm not normally this controversial.
We love it. So we apply for the Rhodes Scholarship. What made you apply for it? Like what as you said, there's only 3 offered in New Zealand. And I'm not going to. I know the answer. Why not? But what made you decide that you wanted to do it? Was it an inspiration from yourself, or was it an external push from somebody else?
It was. I just wanted to work with this particular guy that's here.
Yeah.
Because I got into this field of ancient DNA, absolutely fizzed it, just my jam. And then I found this guy that works here. I initially found him on YouTube. He made a very crazy comparison. But he works on animal domestication, and he made a crazy comparison between, I don't know how I'm going to skirt around this, adult film content and the blurred boundaries of when animals are domestic or not. And that, just the way he communicates science in such a fun way, just really made me want to work with him. And I was like, you know what? I'll give this thing a shot. I'm not going to get it, but I'll give it a shot. Yeah.
You gave it a crack, exactly. Like I said, why not, right? What's stopping you? Anybody from applying?
And like I said, like I just did all these things throughout my time in uni, throughout my time at high school, and I was like, I've got a pretty solid application. I ended up getting to the final round. I got interviewed by Dame Patsy Reddy at the time. Yeah, so that was really cool.
So then you get this letter that says, "Nah, sorry, not going to happen." Tell us about this next application process that you've applied for.
Sorry, going back to that, I was actually sitting there afterwards. I got my favorite meal. I love a curry, and I got a curry, and I sat in the Botanic Gardens in the sun and just awaited the phone call, because like at the end of the day, after all the interviews at the final stage, they just like called the finalists to say you've got the scholarship. So I was sitting there eating my favorite meal, got the bad news, and I was like, you know what? I did the best I could. So but yeah, the next process is you apply to Oxford. So I thought the last chance is a Clarendon scholarship, which they give the top applicants in every department. And not every department. It's a weird way of, I guess, funneling money around. But they offer just over 100 a year to the 25,000 applicants to Oxford. Wow. So I thought, well, might as well give it a shot. I applied to Oxford, and then I ended up getting in. And I was like, great, there's the first part done. Second part is funding, because there is no way in hell I'm making it over here on the own skin of my teeth. But
that's right,
and every morning, like they don't notify you if you don't get this Clarendon scholarship, just because of the 25,000 applicants. So every morning I knew it would come through at like 3 and 4 a.m. So my body clock was waking up every morning at 3 to 4, and I'd check my emails, nothing, checked my emails, nothing. And one day there was an email there. And like I said, I knew if I got an email that I'd got it, and I saw Clarendon, and I was like, oh my God. I woke up, I went into the bathroom and pinched myself and like splashed water on my face, because I was like, this isn't real.
Oh, wow.
And then I went back to sleep because it was 3 a.m.
Yeah.
And then, told my family the next morning, because I was home for my birthday, actually.
Oh,
so
what a present. Cool. What a great present.
Yeah, I cannot complain about that.
Amazing. And then it becomes real. So now you've got a spot at Oxford, you've got the scholarship, and this is during COVID times. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. And did you go, damn, COVID? How do I? Because for those of you that are listening to us, New Zealand was basically just locked down during that time there. What is that thought process for you? Because you hear the media about the world. Oh, COVID is doing this here. You've got this opportunity to go over to a place where COVID is just running rampant, apparently, according to the media. Did that have any bearing on your thinking, or did you like, yeah, whatever?
It was less blasé. It was more of like a calculated risk.
Yeah.
I was like, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. There's no way I could pass up.
Yeah.
Like the opportunity that's been just handed to me on a platter.
Yeah.
So I decided that I'd take every necessary precaution. Obviously vaccinations, try and do as much hygiene and things when I got here just to reduce the risk.
Yeah.
But yeah, it didn't really factor in because I was like, there's no way I can pass up this.
Totally. So you jump on a plane and you spend 2 days trying to get to Oxford. You get there. What was your first impression as you got to this amazing university that we've heard about and growing up? Oxford, Cambridge are universities that people just revere wherever in the world.
Yeah. So I caught a bus from Heathrow, and then it took about an hour and a half. And then I got off the bus, and it was a Sunday, and all the bells were ringing in the city. I don't know what it was. It must have been some special day because I've never heard it the same again. But all the bells, or maybe it was just my arrival.
Just arrived. Ooh, there we go.
And it was just like deafening bells, and looking up and seeing these churches with all these like sculptures on them, seeing plaques that said this building was built in the 1300s. Seeing all these different things scattered around the place. It made me feel very small, but it was also 6 a.m. and I just, like you said, been traveling for 40 hours, so nothing really felt real.
Yeah. And then what is it like as you started getting into the vibe of this new environment? What is it like for you? I mean, if you were to compare where you are now versus where you were in Dunedin in terms of the academic vibe or the student vibe. I guess you're a postgrad, so it's a little bit different as well.
Yeah, well, it's just the people were all doing like super crazy things. Like one of the first people I made friends with, she's the press secretary to the vice president of Canada. She's one of my like good friends, and that's the first person I made friends with. And then the second person is now a journalist for The Economist. Yeah. It's just like the things these people are doing are just absolutely mind blowing. Yeah. And you just talk to anybody on the street and they'll all be doing something just equally fascinating, and you can just learn so much. That's the main thing. I absolutely fizz it. I go to all these events and just try and like get to talk to as many people as I can, because when are you ever going to be in a setting like this again?
And I guess if we had a podcast with one of your friends, they'd be like, "Oh, I met this person here who's doing ancient DNA stuff. Wow, what an amazing, because you're I guess we have to also acknowledge the fact that the reason that you're there is also because you're doing something that's pretty amazing, and we have to acknowledge that. So this is awesome for you.
And a good bit of luck too. Let's not downplay the let's not downplay the luck.
You better buy the lotto ticket then.
Yeah.
So and the question I have for you is, you're there doing your PhD. Do you also interact with undergraduates, or what is it like? You're living where you are.
Yeah. So the I guess the accommodation I'm living in is college accommodation off-site. It's like a 2-minute walk from the actual college. And I go to college for dinners sometimes in this like massive dining hall built in the 14th century. It's like huge ceilings. There's oil paintings of all the previous wardens on the wall, long tables, high table. But yeah, that's the only time you kind of interact with the undergrads, because they also have dinner there as well.
Yeah.
But they kind of stick to themselves, which is interesting. Like I tried to just infiltrate the undergrads when I first got here, just to, I guess, meet some people, but they all just have their own wee cliques. Fair enough. But,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Which is interesting for you, because you lived in a college, worked in a college, and I guess it's a whole different setup for you in terms of the way it rolls. What are the biggest differences for you, living and working in Cumberland College versus where you are at the moment in terms of social, or just in terms of human interaction? I guess, is it similar or is it different?
I don't know. I feel like the vibe of Cumby as a residential college was more of like a relaxed setting. People would be just chilling out, watching movies together, having fun on the weekends, going to like events and stuff like that. Here it's more that they're 8-week terms and they have 3 terms a year.
Oh,
So
okay.
when the undergraduates are here for their like 8-week stints, it's just work,
Wow.
work, work. Yeah, Merton, which is my college, has the what is it? I guess the unfortunate connotation. It's called "Where Fun Goes to Die." That's how all the other colleges know Merton, because supposedly it's like there's this thing called the Norrington table, and it's it looks at all the different positions of the colleges, and Merton's always on top. It's just because the undergrads are the ones like putting in the work all day, every day, trying to ace their finals, which they're all doing at the moment. They have to dress up, and it's quite funny. You have to dress up for your final exams in this thing called subfusk, which is like white shirt, tie, black suit for a man with like a bow tie and stuff, and then for girls they have to wear like skirts and stuff with like a little ribbon around their necks and gowns and hats, and buy a new carnation every day. It's very crazy.
And what is it like for you? You know, coming from Kaikoura to seeing this crazy structured way of. I mean, New Zealand is structured, but not really structured. You know, we're pretty chill here. What is that like for you, just as a human being watching this crazy human experiment happen in front of you? I guess
it's less easy to, I guess, communicate with people, like, because a lot of people are very serious all the time. Yeah. I'm rocking around in my Lakers t-shirt. I stick out a lot here. Everyone's got. There's people that wear suits to every single event, like just dinner. They'll wear suits. Yeah. So it's a lot more formal and a lot more posh living here. And I don't know, just I like to stick to what I know. I just am kind of chill, which isn't the vibe, but
well, hey, you do you, right?
Yeah.
And I think the irony of the statement that where fun goes to die. I mean, I've been lucky to know you for a number of years, and I think you are the epitome of having fun. So it's the irony is you know, is not lost to me that hey, Lachie's gone to this place where apparently the fun goes to die.
Well, it's like it's known for that so much that all the alcohol and everything's free. Like, so you go to any event and it's just unlimited free alcohol. You could not have that at Cumberland College.
No.
And let's be real, I am making the most of all of the free things that are being offered to me. So.
Why not get out of the world if it's free? Let's go nuts, right?
Yeah,
exactly. And what about? I mean, so now you've what is it like meeting this person that you saw on a YouTube clip and you were like, oh, I want to work with this person? What is that like for you as you stepped into his office to go, boom, here I am?
It was like I saw a celebrity, you know, because I'd like worked up this image of him in my mind and this idea of him, and then he just like met all my expectations but exceeded them all at the same time. And it's so nice because a lot of my other friends are really not complaining, but just have a lot of issues with their supervisors not being supportive, whereas I do the smallest thing and my supervisor's like, you've done it, you've absolutely aced life, like you're doing the like Lord's work, you know. It's really nice to have, and that's why I wanted to come here, right? I saw him as a leader and a figure that I wanted to work under. And I think be motivated by that kind of thing rather than the prestige, because if I came just for the prestige and went with someone that I wasn't suited with, I would have had a less than ideal experience.
I think that's a great learning for anyone that wants to do research. You know, go with the person, not with the place. Especially when you get to the PhD level. I know I have lots of people that, well, it's the same thing with me. With my PhD experience wasn't the best with one of my supervisors, but I had to go with him because prestige. You know, I didn't know that at that time, but you know, and I think there's a whole different way of learning. And I think, Tyler, as you start exploring what you're going to do next year, this is a piece of advice for you to think about as well. You know, think about the person, not the place, I think. And I guess, I mean, you'll be fine with that there. And do you want to talk about your research? What are you doing? Do you want to give us a, you know, no, this is not an academic talk, but hey, why not? Let's
elevator pitch.
Elevator pitch,
yeah. So I work on the domestication of dogs. So that's the broad umbrella that holds all of my projects together. But under that, there's a huge array of just randomness. I'm doing a project on the evolutionary history of dingoes in Australia and looking at, I guess, inbreeding. So breeding with European dogs through time and looking at radiocarbon dating to figure out when they might have moved into Australia from Southeast Asia. Another project on Russian wolves and looking at a similar kind of thing up there. But the one project that gets me super fizzed, that's the one I'm like my head's in at the most at the moment, is looking at the, you know, dog breeds, right? We've got pugs, we've got all these different things. That's a Victorian invention. The Victorians decided these things need to look a certain way rather than behave a certain way. And I want to look at what kind of genetically has happened from that early decision by looking at museum specimens of the champion dogs of the 19th century, and like have a time series all the way up until modern dogs, and look at, like, I guess the effects of inbreeding and all of those nasty things that have happened as a result of us wanting a cute French bulldog in the home.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty exciting. And was that your project that you wanted to do, or did that change along the way?
It was kind of, I just knew I'd be doing dog domestication.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh,
but that one there was one of the ones that I was super keen on. And I think my supervisor, Gregor, he saw that and he was like, yeah, let's go for that. And he got money to do it, which helps.
which does help. And I guess talk about money. Your scholarship is worth quite a bit. Does it cover your entire, what does it cover, I guess, for anyone out there that's listening, go, hey, actually, I could do this at some point.
Yeah. So all of the scholarships to Oxford from New Zealand. So there's the Commonwealth Scholarship, the Rhodes Scholarship, and the Clarendon, which is like the internal Oxford one. They all cover your living fees. So they give you $30,000 a year, and then they cover all your course fees. And the Rhodes gives you return flights every year.
Yep.
But they don't cover accommodation. So you're expected to use that $30,000 to pay for your college accommodation and food and whatever else.
Yeah.
Which I must say, $30,000 a year with subsidized college food and accommodation is a pretty cushy life.
Yeah. And I guess it gives you time to actually work on your research as opposed to stressing about finding a part-time job. And because when you're doing that research that you want to focus, your headspace has got to be in the game when you're in the game. Yeah.
Although in saying that, I currently am looking at jobs at the Natural History Museum in London because I want to get some experience working there, because I think that could be kind of a cool avenue to pursue in the future.
100%. And I guess you now have choice to choose your job, as opposed to I have to work at the local supermarket because I need to pay. I'm not working because, hey, this sounds like a cool way for me to explore, which is pretty cool. What do you miss about New Zealand, living over there? Is there anything you miss? I mean, I see the flag up there, which is great.
Yeah, patriotic. I guess the first thing was the people. That was immediately apparent. People here do not care about you. At home, I went to the same coffee shop every morning and they'd be like so super happy to see me every day. They had a countdown to when I was leaving, and they'd rub a number off every day. Whereas you go to a coffee shop here and they're like, £2, like just a whole different vibe. And the people down the street are less friendly, and especially in London, like that's a whole different kettle of fish.
Yeah.
So yeah, mainly the people, and I guess a little bit coming straight from winter into another winter.
Yeah.
Like it was super envy watching everybody have fun in the summer with all the festivals and things, and just going to the beach. And I was sitting here with COVID, with like 5 hours a day sunlight, stuck in my room. That was seasonal affective disorder. If you move over to the UK, is a real thing. I didn't think it was going to be. I was like, no, I'm headstrong, I can do it. So get your vitamin D tablets.
Oh, crazy. And people matter, right? We have the quote here in New Zealand about people, and I think it's very, very true that again we take for granted what we have in wherever we live, what we have in the people around us. Like I said, the coffee shop recognizes you, and it's not about the money. It's not about the money. It's about the experience. Hey, this guy's here again. Let's give him his thing, but let's have a little banter along the way. And I guess, Tana, you've noticed this as you've done your role as well. And I guess when you start traveling, you'll see the difference as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Sorry, and one more thing. That's the hard thing, because I was in Dunedin for so long. It was like, 6-7 years. And you've got that community, you walk through campus, you can't walk 100 meters without seeing 5 people and it's always, oh, how's it going? Yeah, hey. And you come to a place where literally not a single soul knows you.
Yeah.
Although saying that, I had the weirdest experience. I was standing outside this cafe. Sorry, can I just go on about that?
Yeah, go ahead, totally. Yeah.
I was standing outside this cafe and I heard a Kiwi accent, and I was like, oh my God, a Kiwi. So I walked over. I was like, kia ora. And they're like, yo, how's it going? And we had a chat. And they, it turns out they were on a Clarendon scholarship as well. I hadn't met them because they had come later because of COVID. And they were like, oh, I went through this place called Temuka, and I was talking to this guy in the shop, and he was telling me about his son that had come over to Oxford to study at DPhil. And I was like, you are kidding me. And she's like, yeah, do you have an uncle or something? I was like, no, that was my dad. Like you
What?
literally were speaking to my dad. Yeah, that was mental.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
That is crazy. But again, that shows you that, I mean, the world is a small place and New Zealand is really small, but the world is tiny. Tiny. Which reminds me of I'm gonna go and experience as well. So a while ago, I went to India to visit some family there, and I went to a city called Bangalore. Now Bangalore is got millions and millions and millions of people. And one night I was walking with my dad, and the streets are just packed. If you've been to India or Southeast Asia, it's just packed and packed and packed. I was walking along, da 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 da, and I walked past this person, and I was like, I recognize that person. And I was like, oh, whatever, it cannot be. And that person also did a bit of a double take, and I was like, wait a minute. So we both turned back at the same time. We're like, what the hell? So this is a guy who had, when I was in RA at Arana College in 2007, he was doing his PhD there. And he was from India, but he didn't live in Bangalore. He lived in Mumbai. And the chances of us bumping into, he was just there for the week, just on a trip. And the chances of us just seeing each other at that moment in this crazy city was just like, what is going on here? Crazy, it just blows my mind every time I think about that. You know, the world is a crazy place. Yeah.
It's better than seeing a celebrity, you know?
It's totally better,
Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess, you know, that goes back to what you said before right at the start. You know, when you go to university, you meet all these diverse people. And I guess in New Zealand, we're very privileged, and whatever university you choose to go to, it's a congregation of people from around the country in that one concentrated space. And Kiwis like to travel. You know, they're all over the world. So the chances of meeting somebody is higher than, say, in other places where people don't travel as much. That's me and my.
And then you get people, and they're like, "Oh, I know someone from New Zealand," and I'm like, "Oh, what's their name?" You chuck it into Facebook, and you have 5 mutual friends, you know, and they're like, "How the hell does that happen?" I'm like, "New Zealand is the small one."
Exactly, crazy. And I guess, you know, for our listeners out there, we've been lucky, and I've been talking just, you know, before the podcast. You're looking forward to coming back. I mean, how does that feel at the end of the year?
Yeah, I'm excited to see the whole fam because, like, Zoom is nice. Like, I definitely couldn't do it without any kind of video chat or phone call stuff. So I don't know how people did it back in the day. You just wouldn't even know they existed. They go halfway across the world and be like, well, they're probably alive. So yeah, it's nice just being able to keep up with my grandparents all on Facebook, my like siblings and stuff. But I think seeing them in the flesh, and then also just getting to experience the wilderness of New Zealand again.
Exactly. Yeah. Back to Kaikoura for a little bit, I guess. No, maybe Temuka.
Yeah, exactly.
Get some pottery going. Sorry, that's an internal joke there, guys. And I guess it's pretty awesome you say that, because, you know, when I went to university, technology didn't exist like this the way it does at the moment, and I had to. I went to university in South Africa, like I said before, and I had to wait every Friday for my parents to call on the payphone. And if there's someone else on the payphone, I'll be like, get away. This is my 20-minute, whatever, my 5-minute time cap that I've got to talk to my parents. So like you said, the world, you know, I think the world has changed a lot. And I think COVID, for all its good and for all its bad as well, has also got lots of good as well, because I think family ties have increased in a different way that didn't exist. You know, what we took for granted has now disappeared. We go, actually, I need to see those eyes without a mask on, which is great.
Yeah. And I think I've definitely become closer with my family, you know, like, which seems so weird. Like, you put half a world of distance between us, but we talk each day more than we ever would back in New Zealand. I think it's because of the proximity, you know. Totally. You just know they're up the road, so it's like, I can talk to them anytime.
And it didn't happen. That's right.
Yeah.
We've been chatting for almost an hour now. My alarm's gone off again there. So I mean, what an amazing story, you know, from Kaikoura to Temuka, from Temuka to Timaruwa, you know, that little drive there, 1 hour every day, down south to Dunedin, and then all the awesome experience you've had while you've been in Dunedin, and then you find yourself across the world, you know, being awesome there in Oxford. We like to end our podcasts with a piece of knowledge from our guests, you know, as we call passes of knowledge. Is there any wise words or things that you like to our listeners to think about as they are listening to this podcast from your experiences that stand out for you?
Probably the big one, just listen to yourself. Like, don't let anyone else's opinions change your direction. Like, take them on board and maybe use it to, like, I guess, shift what your ideas are, or maybe like use it in a positive way, but don't let anyone bring you down, and just stick to the passion you've got, because at the end of the day, when your head's been in a book for 2 weeks and you're cramming for that exam, like PJ said, it's so much easier to study for something you actually love than for something that's going to make you money.
Yes, listen to yourself. I think that's a great thing for humans as well. Not just for, at the end of the day, in our jobs, in our relationships, and whatever we do in life. If you listen to yourself, yourself doesn't lie. Well, it does lie sometimes, but inherently, it knows what's right and what's wrong for you. So I think that's a very powerful learning, just for humans in general.
Yeah, if you've got a gut feeling, just take the gut feeling at face value and do what you think is right from that. Don't just push it to the side, because if something feels off, it probably is. So make the decision in there to change it.
Yeah, totally. And I guess, this is where lots of people live in the world of the what ifs, what if. But hey, and normally our what ifs are a negative space. So, listen to yourself.
What if I never applied? Just do it.
Exactly. Yeah. What's the worst thing that could happen, right? What's the worst thing that could happen?
They say no.
They say no. You still have your curry in front of you. Happy days. Still have your favorite curry.
Exactly.
Tanya, anything from you as we start to round off?
Just it's always awesome to hear Lachie's story, and it's always inspiring to see what he's achieved through his time. It has been quite inspirational for me to see where you've gone, Lachie, from where you started to where you are now, which is quite cool. And I guess it just goes to show, sometimes we're so driven by what we're doing, and sometimes it feels like it's just our journey, but you are making an impact on other people's lives, and it is inspiring to others, the things you're doing. So yeah, just awesome work.
Cheers, Tanya. Thanks.
Yeah, keeping inspirational. Awesome. And I think I'm pretty excited, and I guess Tanya's excited as well. I hope I'm speaking for you, Tanya, but I think you're excited that we're going to be seeing Lachie again in a few months' time, and with his very measured, mature approach to hands-on Otago, we're looking forward to that. There, it'll be good times.
I'll show up wearing my suit and tie,
That'll be so good. The next Lex Friedman right there. Boom. Yeah. Awesome. And I guess, Lachie, this has been a privilege talking to you. Thank you so much for making time. I know you have a busy schedule over there in Oxford, so we really appreciate this. And to our listeners out there, thank you very much for listening to us. And hopefully you're going to hear the story and get inspired to just, be yourself, listen to yourself, and to apply for things. There's the worst thing that happens if someone says no. So thank you very much. Thank you, Lachie. Great to see you. And to our listeners, thank you for listening. Don't forget to like, comment, share this podcast. And yeah, we will insult you. All right. Thank you, everybody. Bye.